Now that we have our contour line drawing of our candy still life, we are ready to transfer it to our drawing paper. We're going to create our own version of carbon paper. And we've done this before on our sketchbook cover. I'm going to take a drawing on another piece of paper, in this case my contour line drawing, and I'm going to hold it up to the light or take it to a window so I can see the drawing on the front through the back. So let me grab a light here to demonstrate. So you can see with my drawing over top of this light that I can see the drawing through my paper onto the back. I'm going to trace over, sorry about that, I'm going to trace around my objects, and I want to go a little bit larger than the objects themselves. So I don't want to trace directly over top of them. I'm not recreating the contour line drawing on the back of my paper. I am tracing around the objects to create a shape, and I'm going to then fill in that shape with graphite. Now this is easier if you are up against a window, and I'm going to darken this line so you can see the outline I created. And if I bring my light back over, you can see that the outline I just created is slightly larger than my objects. The reason why I want it larger is when I fill this with graphite, I want to make sure I am getting graphite over the very edges of my objects. Sometimes if we just try to trace right along these pencil lines that we can see through to the back, we go off course, and then when we start tracing it onto the other paper, there's no pencil back there and the line doesn't copy. So that's why you want to create this shape slightly larger than your contour line drawing. Now that I have that, I'm going to take my number 2 pencil, and I'm going to use a shorter stroke, and I'm going to fill in this shape with graphite. I want a medium to medium dark value on here. You don't want to go really light, and you don't want to skip over spaces like this. You want to try to get an even pressure, so the shorter you make your strokes of your pencil, the more even the pressure, and the less white gaps you'll have between your pencil marks. So instead of you watching me complete this, I have one that I've already done that to. So here's the back. That whole shape I had drawn around my objects is now filled in with graphite. So this is going to be ready to transfer onto my drawing paper. I'm going to take my drawing paper, and I'm going to place my composition on top of it with my contour line drawing facing up. I need that graphite I just made, that solid graphite area, down on my paper. Now this is the last time you can make any adjustments to your composition, and you're limited to just shifting your composition along this piece of paper. So I still want to try to keep to the rule of thirds. I don't want to draw the rule of thirds on my drawing paper, so I'm just going to sort of judge it by eyesight. And my rule of thirds, if I keep to this line here, and I had originally had my lollipop on that rule of thirds, and kind of eyesight where the other rule of thirds, I'm going to move my lollipop and this paper slightly over to the right. So you'll notice our original sketch paper is slightly smaller, than our final composition paper. Once I have placed my composition how I would like it, again, this is our last chance to make any type of adjustments to it. And again, that is basically just where we're placing it, how far above, how far below, how far to the left or the right. I'm going to trace this over. Now, to keep it from moving on me, I'm going to use a couple of small pieces of tape. And I just want little pieces of tape. So I tear off a small piece, and then I even tear it in half, and I just lightly tape that down. I'm not forcing the tape on there to stick a lot, just enough to keep the paper from moving. This way, if I don't finish tracing this in one class period, I can take this over to our storage area, put it away, and bring it back the next day with nothing moving. Now that I have it taped down, I can either use a pencil, or I sometimes like to use a pen, and I'm going to trace over my contour outline. This pressure that my tool, whether it's a pencil or a pen, is going to force that graphite I have on the back onto my paper. So if I lift there, you can see my pencil lines that are appearing. So let me get this traced onto my drawing paper. When I'm done tracing, before I remove the tape, I like to peek underneath to make sure everything has transferred over that I have drawn. There, I forgot a little line here. This is a clear cellophane package, so I can see the details of that candy underneath it. So I like to just double check that I have everything on there that I need. And then that way, by keeping the tape on there as I peek, I'm not really moving it. And I notice even before I look under there that I am missing a couple of these circles here. That is one advantage to working with pen when you trace over this, over pencil, because then it does allow you to see a little bit more clearly items that you may have missed. Now, when I get into an area where it's taped down, it's harder for me to lift up to peek under. I will lift up one piece of tape at a time to peek underneath that tape to make sure everything's there that I need. And then I'll do the same thing to the other area near the other piece of tape. So once I'm happy with it, I'm going to lift this off, and I have a light contour line drawing of my composition. I'm not going to darken any of the lines in. I'm going to leave it this light pencil line, because as I add my shading, I want my value changes to help identify the edges of my objects, not a heavy outline like you would see in a coloring book. My original composition, I'm going to just fold the little pieces of tape back over the edge, and then this I'm going to keep in my sketchbook just in case I need to trace anything again onto here, or if worst case scenario, for whatever reason that may be, if I had to start over, I at least have this. I just have to trace it onto a sheet of paper again, and I don't have to start all over again from scratch. So our next discussion is going to be starting to apply value to our good composition.